Welcome to episode 55 of I Thought I Knew How, a podcast about knitting and life and all sorts. I'm your host, Anne Frost, and this episode was recorded on March 11th, 2021. We are going to talk about March. Marchity, March, March. Some WoolWideAdventures, walking the world together, knife wounds. Let's get started. Thank you and welcome to Suzanne for becoming a patron/producer over on patreon.com/I Thought I Knew How. Patrons keep the bills paid and receive some benefits in return. Learn more by hopping over to patreon.com/I Thought I Knew How. And thank you as well to 201PLM for leaving a kind review with your 5-star rating of the podcast over on Apple Podcasts. Rating and reviewing the show anywhere you can helps it be more visible in the search algorithm, so I very much appreciate it as it does help others find the show. We are approaching the midpoint of March. In New England, at least in the 2 areas of New England that I've lived in, March is perhaps the most lackluster month of the year, but I'm still really glad when it rolls around. For the most part, March is the last of winter. Though I do remember a few Easter Sundays that were accompanied by snow, most years, March is the transition month from winter to spring, though typically the prettiness of spring doesn't arrive until the very end of the month. The snow melts, the birds return, and the grass starts to green up a bit, but that's about all we get. But as an avowed hater of snow and cold, that is enough for me. I have been wearing my Franken shawl, aka the modified Fantastitch, for about a week now. I love it. It is quite a head turner too. I had to go by Webs the other day to look for a book, and several of the staff members and customers did double takes. Once I established it wasn't because I had food in my teeth or my skirt stuck in the back of my tights, I realized it was the shawl. Stephen West. Man, his designs have a way of turning heads. But March. Yes, March is visually the least impressive month of the year here, but the fact that it's the step from winter to spring is enough for me to love it. The bird feeders are back in the windows. We had been throwing seed out directly on the ground for the birds who overwintered, but now that the bears are up and moving again, we have to feed the birds from areas that the bears can't get to. We had a feeder in the kitchen window last year, and the birds found that right away again, but I have one in my office window now too, and that took them about 4 days to notice, but now I have a few visitors every morning who come have some breakfast while I check my emails. The snow cover on the rails to trails is mostly melted off at this point. The last sections that are holding on to snow are in the heavily shaded pine tree areas. People walk the trail even in winter, so the snow ends up packed down until it becomes ice, and in those shady areas, it can take an extra 2 or 3 weeks for that to melt. But I decided to start running again anyway because I'm just so glad that the weather is nice. Now, I haven't run properly in probably 10 months. I was having some knee and foot problems last year, so I stopped running and had just been walking, but even that hasn't been happening since December. There has been a lot of sitting. I've been out running twice so far and decided to have a rest day yesterday, though I ended up going for a 1.5-mile walk just because I was so stiff and I thought that the movement would help. Last night I was in bed and asleep by 9 because I could barely keep my eyes open, and I woke up at about 4 so sore I could barely move. I went back to sleep and got up at 7 and decided even though I was sore I was going to go run, but I needed some Tylenol first. And to take the Tylenol, I needed to have a little breakfast, so I went for some nuts and cheese. I could not find the kitchen scissors, so I pulled out a knife and succeeded in both opening the bag of pecans and slicing my left pointer finger open. Now, I am so hypervigilant about knives. I did the same thing to my right pointer finger while I was washing a knife when I was in 3rd grade, and since then, I have just been very careful with knives, but I got myself today. My husband helped me get it bandaged, but I have since realized just how much I use my left pointer finger to knit with. It acts like a backstop for the needle when I put it through the stitch. So my husband is bandaging my finger, and in my mind, I'm stressing like a high school basketball player who has a college scout at the game. how am I going to knit? I have my goal to do a big project every month. I need to finish the edge of the Westfjords Wanderer today if I'm going to stay on schedule. And this is when you realize you might have a problem. I waited about an hour before I tried knitting because I didn't want to know. But what I discovered is that my hand just automatically made the switch without me even thinking about it. When I picked up my knitting, my pointer finger just stuck straight up as if I was holding the yarn to knit continental, and my middle finger became that backstop finger. So apparently even my subconscious mind wants to keep knitting. I have put sweat and tears into my knitting in the past, and apparently it's time for a little blood too. Okay, that's gross. Let's not get blood on our knitting. Enough with the knife wounds. We still have lots of other things to talk about today. Let's have a song, though, before we get into the other stuff. This is Reasons by Kyle Rhodius, and if you are out walking as you listen, get ready to pick up the pace.
I got a feeling that tonight will be the best night I can feel in. When I see you around, my heart is set to healing. I got a feeling my love tonight's off. If you want to dance, you have to try, get it on. Just you and me, forget about the time gone. About the time gone. I have 100 reasons to close your eyes, 100 reasons to make you laugh. I got 100 reasons to, 100 reasons to. I have a feeling that tonight will be the best night I can feel in. When I see you around, my heart is set to healing. I got a feeling my love tonight's off. If you want to dance, you have to try, get it on. Just you and me, forget about the time gone. About the time gone. I have 100 reasons to close your eyes, 100 reasons to make you laugh. I got 100 reasons to, 100 reasons to. I have
I need to back up a bit and address a few things that got mentioned in passing. First, the whole walking thing. If you are in the Facebook or MeWe groups, you may have heard about the World Walking group I made for listeners. WorldWalking.org and the World Walking app are free steps tracking services that work with your phone's pedometer or a Fitbit and allow you to apply your steps to walks that are mapped out on the world. So for instance, if you walk 10,000 steps in a day, you can apply that to a walk around Nova Scotia, for example. Your progress is tracked in the app, and when you get to a point of interest along the way, you can click on it and read about it. It's also connected to Google Street View, so you can click your way along the walk if you'd like and see what the area is really like. Because the weather is improving for so many of us, I created a group called I Thought I Knew How Knitters, so we can cheer each other on. There are 8 walks in the group that are all from areas that we will be visiting in the online International Fiber Festival. And everyone in the group can contribute their steps, and it counts for everyone in the group. So Katura, for instance, walked something like 14,000 steps and applied them all to the Amalfi Coast Walk. And so everybody who's in that group has progressed that same distance, which is great because some of the walks are crazy long. But I think if we all work together, we can probably finish off these walks before the festival is over. Find World Walking in the App Store or log in at worldwalking.org. Then search for I Thought I Knew How in the groups area. It seems like people on Android phones have to ask to become members of the group, while those on Apple devices can just join. I'm not entirely sure if that's right, but that seems to be how it's working out. If you do have to ask for an invite, just send the invite request, and I then get an email saying, so-and-so wants to join the group, and I can log in and send you an email that has a link you can click to let you join. It's complicated, but once you're in, you're in. We can all walk together and encourage each other to get back on our feet after the long winter. As I said, the Frankenshawl is done and blocked, and I really like it. The way the weather has been warming up, I don't think I'll get to wear it much longer, but I am enjoying it while I can. I'm on to the next project, which is another pattern by Stephen West called Westfjords Wanderer. It has been on my to-knit list since I first saw it. I am not sure when the pattern first came out, but I know it was before August last year, because I tried to find the yarn for it while we were on the Great Northern Yarn Haul and nothing really struck me. The pattern has 2 samples. One is knit in 12 colors, with the thought being that it's an example of doing the shawl using scrap yarn you have in stash. The other one is knit using 7 colors, 5 solids, 1 half and half, and 1 speckled. And that's the version that I wanted to do, which is why I had trouble finding appropriate yarns while I was on the yarn crawl, because while I saw tons of gorgeous hand-dyed yarn, I was having a hard time finding 7 that worked together harmoniously that also had a half and half and a speckled. I ended up finding what I needed from a vendor in the November OIFF, actually. The Fiber Seed released a colorway in honor of the festival called Silos that references the Midwest, which is where they are located. It incorporates 4 colors: denim, birch, which is a very light tannish gray, bee's knees, which is a golden yellow, and elephant, which is a dark gray. Silos took the place of the speckled yarn, and then I found a hank of half and half made up of bee's knees and birch. And then I got the solid hanks of the denim and elephant, as well as a silver, which is a light gray, and natural, which is, of course, like a very slightly off-white. The Fiber Seed uses base yarns that are spun exclusively for them, and I am really loving this Sprout sock yarn. It's 90% wool, 10% nylon, and it's spun so it has a bit of loftiness to it. You knit the shawl using 2 strands held together, and because it's already got that bit of squish to it, it's really squeezy and wonderful work double. The shawl begins with the border. You knit it back and forth across about 34 stitches, creating an I-cord border on each side as you go. When I'm done knitting it to the required length, I'll pick up the stitches along one of the I-cord borders to knit the intersection of the shawl. But it's not just a straight border, it undulates. You knit wedges using short rows, so the edge curves to the right, and then you switch the wedge direction and it curves to the left. and you end up with a meandering path of a border. When it comes time to knit the inner section of the shawl, you do a feather and fan type pattern to match the undulations, and eventually the waves settle down so that it's just straight across for the top edge. This is my third Stephen West shawl. They have all been so cleverly designed and so unique. I know some people shy away from his patterns because he often uses some really intense colors and the techniques can look intimidating, but you can pick your own colors, and he provides links to instructional videos for anything that might be a challenge. I've been really impressed with the general clarity of his patterns, and I have yet to have an error show up. There were a few times when I thought he had something wrong, but I trusted the pattern and it worked, so no complaints from me. I think I'm going to finish this pattern before the end of the month as long as I don't try to chop off another finger, and my only complaint is that I think it's going to be too warm to wear this year, but I'll give it a smushy hug and set it aside and have an excuse to look forward to the fall. Knit New Haven has the most beautiful yarn in stock right now. It's Shibui Knits Silk Cloud, which is 60% kid mohair, 40% silk. So imagine a shining inner core surrounded by a mohair aura. And it's dyed by Madeline Tosh. The colors are vibrant and rich and simply stunning. Check them out on the Knit New Haven Instagram, which is Knit New Haven, all one word, and then their phone number will be right there in their account info to place an order. They are luscious. The Morehouse Merino Flock Group is working on the Wanderly socks this month. Your monthly fee gets you into all the classes and help you need to complete the project. For the price of one online class, you get the class and all the support along the way for 30 days. That is a true bargain. This month's class was taught by Amy Snell, who designed the socks, and she demystified quite a few things for me. I'm not saying I'm a sock knitter, but I'm also not saying I'm not a sock knitter. Learn more about the group at morehousemerinoflock.com. You guys are already fans of Adagio Teas. I have had so many of you reach out since the last episode to say you are so pumped that they are an affiliate now because you had already found the company and love them. Why had no one told me? Remember, if you get to their website using the link in the show notes or by visiting the Be a Booster page at ithoughtIknewhow.com, a percentage of your order will help support the show at no additional charge to you. Thank you, everyone, for helping to keep the lights on. We are just starting the second week of WoolWideAdventures. I can't remember now if we already talked about the kickoff event. I think that happened after the last episode. Anyway, thank you for coming if you made it in. I had a lot of fun seeing everyone. If you missed it, hop over to WoolWideAdventures on Instagram, and the event has been broken into 3 chunks because Instagram only allows you to post 15-minute segments, but you can watch all 3 of them in the WoolWideAdventures feed. The first weekly adventure focused on mountains, the real kind and the imaginary kind. We asked you to think about a mountain that you have yet to cross in your fiber crafting practice and look for the information you needed to climb that mountain and then share it with others. Mine is a propensity to be a crafting snob. I sometimes hear about a new trend and refuse to give it a try because it's a trend, but that is simply silly. So I ordered a looming kit and am going to be looming a few hats both to learn how to loom and to cross my mountain built of snobbery. Maybe in the future I won't be so quick to dismiss new things out of hand. Some of my favorite mountain climbers have been a few of you who have taken on projects that have sat unfinished because you haven't felt like tackling the finish work, which I totally get. Sometimes the mental energy required to do those last finishing steps is immense. And then there's Sweet Mountain Fiber, who is taking on spinning. Listener Jillian is finally putting her Plotu Lopi to use. Several of you are tackling socks, and I'm right there with you. Instagrammer Paganosc, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, and I do apologize. Their mountain is finally learning how to knit. Welcome to the club. In one of her WoolWideAdventures posts, listener Monica, who is Treehouse Design on Instagram, observed the following. I feel like every new skill I am a bit anxious to try seems like a mountain too high to climb, but once you take the time, it turns out that it is not as scary as it seems and was worth the effort. By now, these knitting mountains I have climbed were, for example, knitting with DPNs, designing a pattern for different sizes, knitting socks, and lace knitting. The ones that I want to achieve are steeking, knitting 2 socks at the same time, making holes for buttons, and making pockets, and designing my own lace. All very worthy goals, Monica, and that is exactly why we picked mountains to be the first challenge. All of these skills and techniques that we know about exist because someone else has already done them. That means they are doable. So often we psych ourselves out of trying something new because we are afraid of messing up or failing, or maybe you're a craft snob like I apparently am. But these techniques are all doable with the proper preparation, and learning them builds our toolkit. Even if you just do the thing once and you never use the skill again, you're adding to your confidence and your feelings of competence. And that is just as important as learning the skill itself. So if you haven't joined us, please do. If Instagram is not your thing, you can get the weekly prompts by visiting WoolWideAdventures.com and getting on the mailing list. You'll get the prompts delivered to your email box each week. If you want to be entered for prizes, you will need to have an Instagram account and post about your adventures using the hashtag WoolWideAdventures. It is a good time. Come and join us. By the time this episode comes out, the next prompt will have been released, so I'll just say it now. It's wool, so you know I'm excited. WoolWideAdventures.com or WoolWideAdventures on Instagram. Let's have another song break. This is another one that's going to get us moving from Kyle Rhodius called Can You Hear Me Now?
Hold tight, I'll be here with you all night. My mind, I'm getting lost in your eyes. I'm broken when you're not around. Unspoken words I'm screaming out. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Now, can you hear me now? 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 Hold tight, I'll be here with you all night. My mind, I'm getting lost in your eyes. I'm broken when you're not around. Unspoken words I'm screaming out. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Now, can you hear me now? Can
A few more things before I go. Unfortunately, Shetland Wool Week has decided to cancel their in-person event this year, but they are going virtual. And there will be another Wool Week annual for this year, as well as another hat designed by Wilma Malcolmson. Follow Shetland Wool Week on their social media platforms for more information about that. It sounds like people will be able to travel to the UK by then, so my husband and I are planning to be in Shetland that week anyway. And I'm hoping to rustle up some more interviews to share. My interview with Shira Blumenthal of Lyon Brand Yarns and Hat Not Hate will be the season ender next week. She is a great lady doing wonderful things with the Hat Not Hate anti-bullying campaign, and I hope that you will tune in for that. I'll be sharing our next knit along at the end of that episode as well. The next episode will be the end of season 4, which means that I will be taking a break after that. The purpose of the timing of this is to allow me some time to get prepared for the Online International Fiber Festival coming up May 1st through May 8th. But immediately after the festival ends, like the day after the festival ends, my husband and I are going on a trip. And so I'm not sure if I will have an episode ready to post in mid-May. It may not be until the end of May that season 5 begins. Patrons, I am hoping to do some travelogues for you while we are on the trip, so keep your eye on the Patreon feed in May to see those. And of course, the Online International Fiber Festival is coming up on May 1st through 8th. It will be a yearly event going forward. No more fall festivals. That time of the year is just too busy already. The last evening of the festival, on May 8th, we will have a live event with Irene Wagoner, author of Keepers of the Sheep, who will talk to us about her time in Morocco and learning from the knitters there. It will be a free event. More details about how to sign up for that will come in the next episode. Until the next episode, thank you for listening and knitting with me for a bit. If you'd like to support the show, please visit patreon.com/IThoughtIKnewHow to make a monthly pledge. You may also consider making a purchase from one of our sponsors by visiting the website IthoughtIKnewHow.com and clicking the link at the top that says Be a Booster. While you are on the site, you can also find the show notes for each episode. Thank you ever so much to my patrons, to Knit New Haven, and to Morehouse Farm for sponsoring the podcast. Find me on my social media accounts as I Thought I Knew How, except on Twitter where it's just Thought I Knew How. The groups on various platforms are all called I Thought I Knew How Podcast. Until next time, may you be blessed with stitches that never drop, yarn without joins, and plenty of time to knit.